The problem with occasional tool use is when you need to do something quickly while in use, you can totally forget how the thing works. I was using my Stihl FSE81 Strimmer when the line just vanished. Could I for the life of me remember how you add nylon line to it? Do I unscrew it? Left or right? It's all covered in grass and worn, so no marks can be seen. So here is the Stihl FSE81 Electric Strimmer with an auto feed bump head, if you know how to use it. So the model of this head, although you can't quite see it on the screen, is the Autocut C 5-2, and it uses 2mm line, a green one. So that's the drive shaft, and this is the mowing head. I've marked it with white and yellow, so hopefully you can see all these markings. So that slides over that. Now comes the spool. There's a little spring that sits inside there, so I'll put that in. That should stay in on its own, and then that slides in there. Now to put the cap on, those arrows must be lined up, those two there and on the opposite side. If they're not lined up, it won't go on. So then that just drops in, and there's a nut in there, and you can turn it and tighten it up. But if it's off, those arrows aren't lined up, it won't go in. So first thing to do is make sure those arrows are lined up, and then the cap will just slide down, and then you can turn it and screw it in place. So that's the actual head altogether. So to rethread the nylon line onto the internal spool, you must cut two 2-meter lengths of 2mm nylon line, which is green I believe. I'd suggest cutting a bit less, as I cut my two lengths to 1.8 meters and I still struggle to turn the spool counterclockwise. Okay, I've got my 1 meter rule now. So you need to cut two 2-meter lengths of nylon line. Now I cut 1.8 meters and I still struggled to spool that on. So to be honest, I'd probably go with 1.5 meters, and that should be easier to turn. So the spool itself turns anti-clockwise, and you need to align those yellow arrows once again. They've got to be opposite each other. So there we are, opposite. And then the nylon line is just pushed in through one of the feed holes until you feel resistance, and it won't go in any further. Then turn round and do the same for the next piece of line. So you just push it in where the aluminium hole is, and then we turn counterclockwise to wind both lots in. As you can see, as I get towards the end of that, I am really struggling to turn that spool. So you may want to go with 1.5 meters. I mean, that is tight. So it's obviously bound up in there. It's almost too impossible to turn. So, and then obviously cut the line so that it can spin freely with inside the shield. I was trying to put it into the camera to show that. You can just see it there. Just cut it before so it can spin freely. Like so. So that's now spooled and ready to go. If the nylon line snapped and left some line still inside on the spools, you need to do this. Now what happened to me was that the nylon line snapped inside and I wasn't able to get the bump feed to work, and also because it was all covered in grass, I had no idea how you actually opened this spool up. So, and also that end part can be extremely tight. So what I found was, using a pair of soft grip pliers, I was able to turn that part anti-clockwise, and then you can unthread it. So that part then normally comes off. Make sure you don't lose that spring, and then the spool will come out. So obviously I just re-spooled that, but that gives you an idea how you remove that spool. And then the nylon line would just pull back out of there. I've painted all that white so you can see the holes. So remove the nylon from that one as well. And then I'll rethread again once more from this angle. So line the yellow arrows up again. And then we can put this part back on. So just push down and turn, and just tighten that by hand, don't use any tools. Okay, so we'll rethread again. So that's where the line goes. So line up your two yellow arrows again. Obviously there won't be yellow on the actual machine, but you need to look for those two triangles. So you push the line in until you feel it go no further, and do the same with the other. A good push through those eyelets, and then turn anti-clockwise. There are yet the yellow arrows do show you that, and the white arrows as well, and then wind it in again. So again, the line starts off easy, but it can really bind up, and that was with just 1.8 meters. I'm now really struggling to turn that. And to give you an idea how tight that is, I'll use a pair of grips just to show you how it almost needs a pair of grips to turn that, and yet we have only just rethreaded that earlier on in this video. So I would suggest 1.5 meters. So, and then clip the end again, because that one's a bit longer. And there we go, so it's rethreaded again. I will just unscrew the spool once more to show the individual pieces in more detail. It's easier to understand how things go together when they are clean and free from grass and mud. Okay, so to rotate the cap counterclockwise again. This time it came off by hand. And we just show everything nice and clearly. So I've painted all these parts white, so you can see how they slide in together. So we'll unspool it again. Get that lot off and out the way. So there's 4 holes that can take the 2 lines. So this cap just slides down there on that spring, and there's a nut in the end of the cap. You can just see the silver nut down there, and that stays loose. And that just screws onto the shaft. So if we take the head off now, see in that cap, that's where it screws, just on that thread. All seems so easy once it's all clean. When you're out there actually cutting the grass, it's a different story. Thank you for watching, and hope you found this helpful. Oh great, it's winding on now. What? Why couldn't you have done that when I did the video? Oh my goodness, it's just going straight on. Unbelievable. Typical.